Hello, Will here, and we are back in episode 3, I believe, in the building of the Sunken City. And as you can see, I've already got all the stuff loaded up, blah 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 blah, and so on and so forth. But I do need to actually get into the Sunken City. Now, where we find an area. Okay, now. One change since the last video, primarily in ways of relating to the Sunken City. One thing I am just going to do for the moment is I'm not going to move this, just for now, because that's going to get on my nerves. Mainly because I'll try and put stuff in this room here, because this is the room we're going to work on in this video. And since that kind of goes in there, when I try and put stuff in, it'll be floating in the air, then I have to do a whole lot of other adjustments, and just moving this over here just means basically that that's not going to happen. But another slight change is that I have gone off and basically built off camera, so to speak, basically the rest of the actual structure of the Sunken City. Obviously this is not the final product, this is not the final design, you know, this is just basically just creating the basic structure of what rooms there are, how many rooms there are, size of the rooms, so on and so forth. But none of the details or anything like that just yet. Though some of this stuff I probably won't be shown in, it just depends, because obviously I don't want this to repeat over and over with it being the same thing over and over again. So there probably will be jumps where it's sort of like, you know, I might have other rooms made and done that weren't shown on video. But that's just mainly because those rooms would consist of things that I've already covered in the series. But if a room comes up where it's adding something that has not been covered in the series so far, say like shop owners or followers or general NPC creation, then you know there will be a video on that. But if it's just a generalized room with no people in it, or it's just the same kind of stuff as another room, then yeah, I won't show you that in video because there's no need to. But right, on to the room we're doing today, because there will be, there's a couple of things different in here, because we're also going to cover lighting as well in this video. So we're going to cover lighting in this one. So this will be sort of covering lighting, implementing furniture, even though that's not in itself is not that difficult. But you know, implementing the furniture, lighting, understanding how the markers on furniture works in the ways of like, do you know if it's the right direction, this down the other, just simple little things like that. And yes, we will be going on to the Guard Barracks. So in this room here, we will have a Guard Barracks. And the first thing on the list of the Guard Barracks is a greybeard figure. So obviously let's put a greybeard figure in. Now I could type in statue, go down to static, bosh, and then attempt to find it on here, because it's most likely on here somewhere. Where exactly? I can't remember. Sovereign Guard statue, that's the badger. Yeah, I could put that in. Bosh, yes, it is actually, these statues are actually a lot bigger than they appear to look in the game. They are actually pretty huge. Just to get a grasp of the idea, let's get this up to the highest point. There you go, it's just tiptoeing in the area. And now I'm gonna get my guinea pig NPC. The NPC that I always use to get a size scale of the room and this, that and the other. And my guinea pig is Advar. He is my guinea pig. So as you can see the scale of the room. So it is quite a sizable guard barracks, but it is a guard barracks. It's not just a small room where a couple of guards hang out. It is an actual barrack. But in order to see the size of the statue next to my guinea pig man, the statues are actually pretty big. Alright, let's get rid of the guinea pig. he has now been deleted to the shadow realm. Now what I can do obviously is I can shrink this down like this. Now there's two ways to shrink and enlarge items. Though you can only shrink it down to a certain point and enlarge it to a certain point. Two methods of doing that is, one is you can hold down the S button on your keyboard, so that's S for salt, and then just click on the left button on the mouse, hold it, and then just move the mouse up and down, and that's it. And you can do it like that. Another way to do it is basically left click on the statue once to get the bounding box around it, then double click with the left mouse button, and then you can come down to here where it says scale, and then you can just increase it, decrease it, and bosh, there you go. And that's that's two different ways on how to enlarge and shrink objects. So I'm going to remove that for a second. So the question is, do we keep it in that form of design, or do we duplicate the item again? All you gotta do to duplicate is actually just right click and then duplicate, and then double click on there, let's go to edit, and then we're gonna double click on here. Now I could do, say, this, so it matches in the statue in the way to the rest of the stone texture. And to a degree that can work. I mean, there is another texture here, but this is for something else. But as you can see, it's pretty solid black, so that obviously is not going to work. But another thing that we can do, but it's not always the easiest to see in the actual creation kit. Sometimes you have to actually go into the game to actually see it. Which is, go to the Directional Material, which I think I did bring up briefly in a previous video. And this basically allows you to sort of like add sort of like snow covering and moss to certain items into that. It'll work into such a way. So let's go mark off moss. Again, I don't know if we're going to be able to see it, because as you can see, we can't see it here. But but say for example, if we were to go say snow, and you still can't see it now. Okay, so this is the thing. Sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't see it. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. It's kind of one of those ones where you kind of have to go into the game to see if it's actually doing what you want it to do. So we're just gonna put mark off moss in it, give it some moss, and then give it new ID, city, Sunken statue. Then click OK. Click on no, click on yes, and then go back to the top, and then here we go. Here is the Sunken statue, and then I'm going to shrink this down to about big. Have a look. How big are we? Okay, so we're here. I don't want to rise it up. I want to make it just a little bit too big. There you go. There you go. It just about fits in the room. Okay, so we got that, but the problem is, to me, I don't like it how it looks when it's just literally just the statue sticking through the ground, you know. So yeah, it's not the most kind of real kind of looking way that it would be built. So what we're going to do is now we are going to type it in dais. So we're going to get a dais, and we're going to go Dweller Steeped Dais. I'm going to duplicate that. Double click, go to edit, so we've got this little stony thing here. So what I'm going to do is we're going to double click on there, and then we're just going to double click there, and then, okay, so we got this, and we have a little change there, so nice, that kind of works. And then, now there's a couple of things we could do here, so, you know, we can go down to say, DLC to, you know, we've got way shrine portals, but they go solid black. Sometimes with the like for example these wayshine portals, sometimes they will like give off a more chromey kind of look, but it just seems to be on this occasion it's just the chrome doesn't seem to work, so it just goes solid black. So what I'm going to type in is we are going to type in bronze. And a bronze pot, you know, so it's a bit metal. It is technically underwater because this room is still technically under the water. Technically. So you know, that little bit of basic steel is kind of like rusted. Okay, and then we are also going to give this one some moss, and we're going to have a look and see what happens. Nothing. Oh, joyous. Anyway, we've got basically what we want to look like. So once again, another editor ID, cities, Darius 1. I'm going to call it Darius 1, just in case if I want to create a secondary Darius. Bosh, and then we just put that in. We're going to shrink this down a bit, get it a bit big, and then we're going to try and get it lined up nicely. Could swing it down a bit more maybe. There you go. And there you go. So at least now it kind of looks like the statue's on more of a pedestal rather than just being stuck in the ground like a stick in mud. You know, it's on its own kind of like pedestal thing. Right. Do it save. Don't have to do all that crap again. Alright. So the next thing is tables. Now, when it comes to tables, you can either just put a table in on its own and then put benches or chairs in, or depending on what you want to do. Or there are models that have benches in with them. So, for example, if I go here and type in table, you can see we got basically a static table. Now, yeah, technically all this furniture is going to be static, so it doesn't move. Basically, you know, that's just a normal basic table. You know, so we've got a common table, common looking table. Furniture table, you look at that, and you know, blah blah blah, stone table. But the problem is there's nowhere to sit. There's nowhere to sit on the table. So we can type in chair in the static, but the problem is this, you can then, you know, actually use these things as chairs, but unfortunately these ones are static, so therefore then they cannot be used as furniture unless you put a furniture marker on it. But what you can do is go to here, type in table, then go to furniture, and then you come up with a whole bunch of these, slightly different ones. And what these ones do, so you got diameter table, 1 bench. So as you can see, we look at that, and then bosh, we have the table, and we have the bench. Now you can do the benches as well, just on their own, without the table being there. So it's not always, so it doesn't always have to be with a table. You could just do a bench as a bench, or you could do a table with the benches already actually there. And you'll notice ones that you can interact with, or NPCs can interact with, because it has these little blue men sitting on it. So you've got little blue men sitting on it, and there's a slight orange box here that's going into the table. That's just basically just to symbolise basically where the height is, to say if the person was going to kind of like lean on the table whilst sat on the table, well, at the table, shall we say. So their arms will actually rest on the table. But yeah, and then with these little blue men, you can see these other sort of like cyan diamonds. So what these are is just basically, these are the points where the animation to go and sit on the bench starts, and where you will end up at the end of the animation when you're getting off the bench. You know, so basically, so really, it's kind of sort of like, you don't want, if you're putting like loads of tables and benches and stuff like that all together, you want to try and make sure that these basically, the cyan diamonds are not like overlapping one another, because then you can start having like NPCs colliding with one another because of animations and stuff like that. So it's always a good idea just to keep a little bit of a gap between them. But you know, this isn't going to work for us because it's one bench. Just one bench in its own. That's kind of sucks. But lucky enough, they do have a model where there are 2 benches. Lucky us, 2 benches, lovely. But the problem is this does not match the same stone structure. Now, technically, this should be. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to open up the furniture tab, and then we're going to go down to DLC 02, and then we're going to go to furniture, and unfortunately, here there is nothing apart from invisible. It's apparently invisible. But technically, apparently, it is invisible, but you can't see it. But as you can see, there is some stuff there. So, you know, you got a whole bunch of other different things you can mess around with this as well. And tentacle death. But I think that's something to do with when you beat Mirak and he gets obviously stabbed by Hermaeus Mora. So that's not really one we're going to really use. And then you go for architecture, and there's only Raven Rock. So technically there is actually no table and benches that match the same stone kind of architecture as what we're using. So unfortunately, what we are going to need to do is we are going to need to go to here, we're going to need to go to here, we're going to need to go to here, and then unfortunately, technically then there's actually nothing. So we're going to need to go to furniture, and then go down to Dwemer, and then you got all the Dwemer furniture. But unfortunately, once again, obviously, as pointed out, there is actually nothing for the same stone structure without having. So again, it's just going to be one of those situations of basically a texture swap, as we covered in the last video. So what we're just going to do, again, we're just going to go bang, and then we're just going to basically do a whole load of texture swapping. Now, find what works, what we can change to work. So you know, okay, so we're looking good there. So we got 2 more. So let's have a look. So we got that to find out if that one is that. Okay, so we can. Now, one thing I can do, I think, is there you go. You know, I can give it a very chromy look. But the funny is, though, it is actually technically a reflection. Unfortunately, it is a reflection of. I think. You got some ginormous blue mushrooms there. That's what that's a reflection of. You know, but you can mess around with different reflections. You know, you got a slightly more green one, and it kind of works. But I don't think it's going to really work so well for this. But unfortunately, there isn't really the gold plating that you can get with sometimes you can get with these. Unfortunately. So what we are going to quickly do. Going to cover it once more just to make sure, because it is a thing that might take a little bit, some people time around. So it's how to basically create another texture again. So what you're going to want to do is we're just going to go and want to move that over. We're going to go and want to go to texture set, which can be found in miscellaneous. Go to here, right click on this, duplicate this, click on this, click on this, click on edit, cancel. And then everything goes over it. Great. Click on that. Seriously. But you know, I'm just going to close that for a second, and we're going to move that over because it's getting annoying. And then we're going to go into folders. We're going to go into metadata folders. We're going to go back into Skyrim, and we're going to go to extract textures. Then we're going to go to textures. And we're going to go dungeons. And then Dwemer. And then we're going to find some kind of like goldish kind of coloured stuff. You know, we've got some golden coloured stuff here. And what we're going to do is we are going to basically rename, right click, then click rename, and right click, copy, then go to the diffuse, click on the image, right click, paste, type in .dds at the end, and then go have a look in here. So we need to type in here, you type in dungeons backslash Dwemer backslash open, and I got it wrong apparently. It's the Dwemer ruins. So if you accidentally do something like this, then all you gotta do is just highlight that, right click, copy, image, right click, paste, and then go back to where you might have made the mistake, open, and then there we go, bosh. Now next what we're going to do is do the same thing again, highlight, right click, copy, go to normal and gloss, click on image, right click, paste, go to the end here, then put in underscore n for night, click open, got that, okay, and go this, and go 0 cities, table, gold, texture, okay, no, yes, then come back into this, click on here, go to here, go back into the top, find the texture, bosh, and then there you go, you got some kind of like gold finish on it at least. And then we're going to find out what this last one is, because I have no idea. Oh, it's a little bit around the outside. So then we're going to put the gold texture around the outside. And then there you go. Now it kind of sort of like fits in a bit better with the rest of the drama ruin. So we're going to then go boosh, 0 cities, bench, 1. I was going to say, I can't spell bench apparently. Now, there is nothing that you can do with some of this kind of stuff. So you can, with a lot of furniture, for example, you can technically random animation start, but you don't need to worry about that. You can click on it so a child can use it, or you can click it off so a child doesn't use it. We're going to keep it with not being for children to not use it. Actually, you know what? No, we're going to make it bosh. Is marker? I think the marker is more like the kind of like bluey things here, I think. Disables what the hell that word says. So unfortunately I can't actually tell what that is because I don't even know what the activation? Is it activation? Oh yeah, it's because I had a little black speck on my screen because it looked like it was like ACTIY. I was like, what is that? Must exit the talk, so that means basically you have to get off of it, or your NPC you want to talk to has to get off of it before they talk to you, so that's kind of pointless. Is perch, never really used that. The only thing that perches really is either a bird or a dragon. The only thing that really perch, so I don't know, maybe you could get a dragon to just perch on it. And then ignored by sandbox, which basically sandbox is basically where the AI can just wander off and wander around and interact with whatever they want to interact with. And if you tick ignored by sandbox, then NPCs won't really interact with it because their sandbox AI is basically being told that they can't interact with this, or to basically just ignore it. But we don't want them to, so we're going to put it back on. You got interaction keyword. Now, these things can be a lot different, but all this stuff to do with keywords, so we're just going to keep that as it is. And then workbench data. So you got a whole bunch of different workbenches. So you got alchemy experiment, create object, chat, which create object would be. I don't know what create object would be, because you got alchemy, which is obviously for creating potions, enchanting, smithing armor, smithing weapons. So I don't know exactly what create object would be. I don't know if that would be something like very similar to the tanning rack or the smelter, possibly. But we don't need to do any of that because we don't need it. And then use the skill and whatever skill it uses, but we don't need to mess around with any of that. But we probably will come back to this kind of thing and you'll see a little bit of a difference, because I will be creating a unique kind of forge in this at a point, which I might cover, because it is actually going to be part of the second city and not the sunken city. So you might miss it, but what I might do is I might go over it before the series is done, just so you know. Got keywords, basically explain what it is. So it is table, blah, blah, race to scale. So what basically that does is basically, actually no, we don't want children to use this actually. So race to scale. It's a funny little thing. You might have realised it when you might have seen it in other mods when people have like new furniture, but they have new followers. But these followers have been created to be quite small, you know, quite tiny people. Or if you try to make adoptable children, say for example. And the problem is then you forget that they can actually interact with certain things sometimes, like cooking pots and benches and stuff like that. Cooking spits is a good example. With race to scale, if a kid was to go and use a cooking spit that you created uniquely, and then allowed a child to use it, that child would then grow to adult size. And then once they finish using the pot, they will shrink back down to child size. So what race to scale does, it sort of like, it kind of basically allows it so then anyone who's slightly bigger or slightly smaller than what the game sees as the average size will either shrink or grow to basically be able to sit on a bench or chair or whatever, sleep in a bed or anything like that, so they don't start clipping through it all. And that's just basically what race to scale is. So really, race to scale you want to keep on there, and basically just leave it. You can add other keywords to this kind of thing, but I'm not going to worry about doing that. But keywords is basically, it's just like, you know, it's a lot of stuff on this where, you know, what is, you know, actor type dragon, you know, so you know, if you create a dragon, an enemy dragon, you can go into their creation, they'll ask for keywords and you put actor type dragon, bosh. If you want to make something basically be seen as a Daedra, so then you can actually use the banish Daedra spell on them, then you will give them actor type Daedra. If you want something to be classed actually as undead, you will put on there actor type undead, and so on and so forth. And there's a lot of other keywords, but we're not going to spend ages looking at that. And the markers are basically these blue dudes. So if I was to get rid of this one of these blue dudes would disappear, get rid of this one, another one would disappear, so on and so forth. Associated spell, I think it's basically if someone was to sit on it, and say there was a heal, a spell associated with the bench, that was a healing spell. If you were to sit on it, it would basically cast that healing spell on you, effectively. That's basically what the associated spell pretty much is. But again, we're not going to do that because this is a basic bloody bench. It's not a magical bloody bench. It's just a piece of bloody pissing furniture. Alright, so we're done with that. So okay, no, yes. And then we need to just now go back to static, wherever it is. Miles down here. Go to here, and then just go up. And we find our bench. Oh no, we don't get a static. What am I doing? I am a fool. We need to go to here. We need to actually go to the actual bench. Fucking Durbury. And then there you go. And then we get our bench in, and we say we're just gonna, add in the bench here, and then we're just gonna right-click on this, duplicate, and then we're gonna use, in this case, the X key to bring up this. We're gonna grab onto the arrow, and then we can just move it without needing it to worry about it going like shooting off up there or something stupid like that. Alright, and then maybe should we add one more bench? Let's have a look. What happens if I add one more bench? How does it look? Do we want them to be close together like this? Yeah, why not actually? So let's just move over this one. Boom. There we go. And if we go around and mind you, do we need space for 12 guards? You know what, I'm going to. There may not end up being 12 guards added into the city, but there's 12 spaces. So they can hire 12 guards, so to speak. Because I'm not putting I'm not putting in a package where they hire guards. Fuck that. So technically this actually covers tables and chairs. Boom. Problem solved. The next one is moss. We'll come back to that one later on. Okay, so next thing is the orange light thing from Blackbeach. The orange light thing from Blackbeach. So I think this will come in the sun. There we go. And then we've got the Blackbeach sun. No, well, we do, technically. We've just got what causes the hang, and then we just go up. And go up. And then you get to see just how big this fucking thing is. It is absolutely ginormous. But we can turn on the lights and then, you know, there you go, boom! It's very glowy. But obviously, definitely this thing, we definitely do want to shrink this thing down. Because that thing is massive. Problem is, it's going up and see you later. So we've got to bring this down by holding on to the Z key and then pulling down. Bang! Right, let's actually get the lights off here. Okay, so we got that. Now, the thing is though, he hasn't said exactly how many he wants of these in here, but he's only just put one in the design picture. So we're just going to put one in here, because we don't need to put a load in here, otherwise we'll be here all day lighting this stuff up with the amount of bloody things that are on here. So I'm just going to put that above the table. Can I look in line to you? I think that's online. Okay, so we got that in. So I'm just gonna take a more sorry button bit. Right, next is that thing that holds fire in it, but not. It has handlebars. And how many of these we got? 4 of them. Okay, so we got 4 of them, and 4 of them are all. So he's got them put here, and here. Obviously I want to save this side, one of these sides at least for the beds. And then maybe I might do some adding in on my own for like another area here, just to try to like fill out the room a little bit. Because obviously, just the way just the schematic he's obviously given me is obviously only covering the basic kind of stuff. Primarily because Dragonblade, who is the collaborator on this, doesn't do creation kit stuff or anything like that, so he's obviously then not going to be fully aware of what there is and there isn't kind of thing. So right, so we've got the brazier, or whatever the hell you want to call it. So we've got the little one, and then we've got the big one. We're going to go for the big one. And then blah blah blah, put that to about yeah. Right, duplicate that, drag this over, get it to that. Then we're gonna keep that one highlighted, and then right click on this one. We're gonna duplicate that, then spin it round with the right click, and then just moving the mouse to spin it round. So now we've got 2 of them there, and then we can just drag it along up to about, try and get it so it kind of matches the other side. Now, I think I need to move this over like one more time. Gosh, and then there you go. And then the camera's going to fly off. And there you go. Right, so that's done it. Okay, so next we can go to lights, because we need to put some candlelight in here. Dun dun dun. But we're going to go down to static, go to magic, and we're going to find the light spanner. Captain custom. So we got that, so I'm going to raise that just a little bit. You know what? We'll increase the size a bit. Again, just hold down the S button and then move the mouse up and down just to. But you can also move things with the arrow keys, but it's just the mouse. Right, so we've got one there, and we're going to duplicate that. We're going to press the C button so we can move it over to here. Like so. And then we're going to right click on that, duplicate both of them, use the X button, move it over, center, and then bosh. We are done. And that's done. Okay. So we can save that. The last. There's two more things we need to get sorted out. Obviously, one is beds. There's these stone beds because apparently stone beds are so comfortable. And obviously some moss to create that underwater illusion look. But the moss thing I'll do off camera because you don't want to see me spending ages putting moss in. It's moss. Alright, so the beds. So we're going to type in bed. And we're going to go back up to furniture. I could just click on Dwemer, but apparently the Dwemer don't have the bed. So we're going to click on furniture. It's probably because I'm looking at the wrong thing there. Yes, I am. Yeah. Well, apparently there's only Dwemer Nordic and ship apparently in furniture. Anyway. Well, actually, we're going to just quickly see. Do we have Dark Elf, and Full Time? Dark Elf. Alright. I've got to create the beds myself. God damn it. Alright. So now we need to find the Dwemer bed. So we got doubles and we got singles. Anyways, the Guard Barracks, obviously, we're going to go single. Now, there's 3 different variations of the bed. You've got where it just says single, and you look at it, and you see the little blue dude, he's got one to the left and he's got one to the right. So that means you can approach this bed left or right. Well, the NPCs can use this bed by either entering through this side or entering from that side to get on the bed and sleep, apparently. But you also have one that says L and one that says R. Which basically, obviously it's just basically the same thing, but with either, the only way that the NPC will get on the bed is either on the left hand side, or in this case this seems to be on my right hand side, or basically come in from the left hand side, kind of thing. So it depends on how much freedom of movement you want to give your characters. So in the case of this, we're just going to do the single bed, and we're going to duplicate the bed because we need to change the stone style again, because they couldn't be bothered. Bethesda couldn't be bothered to make new model beds, for God's sake. So we're going to find out what is what. So that was the pillow. This was actually a correct guess. That would be a very uncomfortable cloth. So we'll come back to that one. And statue. That's the actual stone. Stone stuff. Gold bits are a little bit more the decal, and a bit more decal. Okay, so we just got technically. No, I can keep the other textures the same like this if I want to, which I might just do because there's no need for me to change the actual pillow or the actual bed sheet. So we don't need to worry about that. So we're going to keep that as it is, and then we are going to basically just go boom, cities. Bed 1. Okay. Boom. Babosh. Baba. So we're done there. So we got the bed. The bed is ready, and then it's going to see how big these beds actually are to get an idea how many we're going to want to fit in here. My throat is starting to die. Alright. There you go. That's bad. I'm still alive. Alright, so we're just going to move one bed into there. Then we're going to want to duplicate that bed. And the bed is here. Now see this way normally where sometimes you'll use the whole thing to do left and right. But also there isn't actually a lot of space directly in this area, so what we're going to do is we're going to put one bed there, and then we're going to move this one to about here. That should leave enough space for the NPC to be able to go through that gap, technically. Or they can walk down this gap, they'll have enough room to actually fit in there, technically. And then we're just going to duplicate these, and then you just go, until we get to the point where I want them to be, which I just need to do a little more. There. I believe. Actually no, maybe. So, I only got one more. Maybe one more? On the spot? Yeah, I'm not quite sure about this one. That one looks a bit close around. Alright, so we got that. There you go, that's them. So we got 5 beds. Yeah, in the schematic he's got beds on this direction and beds on the other direction as well at the same time on the other side. But I've also got a thing, this is a guard barracks, so they got obviously the guards are going to be able to obviously cook their own things. The question is how do they cook underwater? That's a question. You're underwater, how do you light the fire? You know, that's the thing you gotta ask yourself, is how the hell do they light fire? Well, I've got a plan for that. So you'll see that after the cut. So we've got 5 beds, but at the same time, not all the guards are gonna sleep at the same time. That's the thing. Or if I do program AI packaging, you know, they wouldn't all go to bed at the same time. You know. So bada bing, bada boom. Right. So in the ways of what effectively Dragon Blade is asked for, this is pretty much it. Apart from obviously the moss, but the moss I'll do off camera. Blah blah blah. This blah 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 that. So right. So let's go for a quick tutorial through lighting. So a way to trigger lights off and on is literally just to press the A button. A for aardvark. Just press A and you can have in your own private disco. Right, so for this we're actually going to want to put the lights on. But as you can see in the yeah, there is a bit of blue tinge. Now I can toggle the sky, you know, you can see there's a slight blue tinge. But that's because of how I've done the lighting for the entire cell, rather than individualized lighting. But for now, we're just going to turn the sky off for a second. Now, the thing is, in here we have 2 kind of coloured variations of lighting. And lighting, you do have to be a little bit careful with it, because you might have seen it in other mods, where sometimes it seems like lights will turn off when you're looking at it a certain way. And then when you look, and then turn back on when you're looking at it at a slightly different way, you know, and that's technically lighting clashing together. So it's like one cancels another one out from your perspective of how you're looking at it. So you do need to sort of be careful when placing lighting to a degree. So, but we definitely need a more kind of like orangey glowy kind of light. So we're gonna type in fire, and we're gonna shrink that down, and we're gonna go to light. Now, all the light that's here is all the kind of light that you would see basically wherever there's fire, or some kind of fire, or something that's supposed to be generating some kind of heat. So you got a campfire, but you've also got a forge fire. Though you never really see the forge actually on the fire, really, but it still would emit a glow because it's hot. You know. Now, myself, what I normally use is the campfire. Now, I'm looking at one here. You can see that there now is a little bulb. So when you bring it down, so you can see the bulb a bit better. And there is the bulb. So, right. Now, there's 2 different things here you can do with lights. In the same ways that you scale up items. Now, technically with this, in ways of scaling up this way doesn't work when it comes to lights. Using the scale here doesn't really work. No matter what you set it to, it always resets back to its original number. So the only way to expand that light is to hold down the S button and then left click, hold down the left mouse button on the bulb and then move your mouse up and down, and as you can see we have the light basically shrinking and growing this time the other. Now we do want to try and cover this up well enough, because it's like, this is a very bright object. It's a very bright object. Now the question is do I put in light around here, these candle lights, because would they produce technically a stronger light rather than this big ass glowing orb? Myself, I would say no. I would say that the light come from this orb would be much stronger. So therefore then, the light being emitted by these would technically be cancelled out. So that's why these things are not going to be given their own source of light. But what happens, you put a light in, you think like, I like, you like the light, you like its size, but you think it's just a bit too bright. Yeah, one thing you could do is just try a different kind of light source. But what happens if you like the light source you're actually using, but you still think it's just a bit too bright? Well, what you can do for that is, and I've got to remember how you do this because it's been a little while since I've done it. I think it's if you hold down Shift, Alt, S, then on the actual bulb, press, hold down the left mouse button, and then it is wrong. It's not that one. It's been a while since I've had to do this, so I can't actually remember. I think it might be good. Let's have a look. So, now have a Control, Alt, and S. So they expect you to do some kind of Spider-Man move here, because you need to hold down the Control button, the Alt button, S button, and then hold down the left mouse button on the bulb and then move it up and down. And that's not shrinking the light or making it bigger, it's actually changing its luminosity. So there you go, as you can see, a massive whiteout. Massive whiteout that. But we're obviously not going to have, so we've got whiteout to burning death, to calming down, to basically puffed out. But obviously we want some light, so we're going to bring it up to about here, and then there we go. So, just to recap on that, if you want to expand it in ways of make it either smaller or larger, you just hold down the S button and then hold down the left mouse button whilst you're on the light like this, and then move the mouse up and down, and that will shrink or grow the light. Depends on which way you want, where you want it to be, expand that further or to be a bit more enclosed. The way to change this luminosity is to hold down the Control button, the Alt button, the S button, and then whilst doing that, hold down the left mouse button, and then on the actual light bulb, and then move the mouse up and down, and then that's how you change the light's luminosity. Now there are different forms of light. You have, you've got non-static light, you've got static light, you've got omni light, half omni light, and you can mess around with them. I'm not going to explain what each one is and does and this and the other, because it's just a pissing ass nightmare. And you do also have light that will actually create shadows as well, in the way to, like, say if I was to put a light bulb, a light that casted that would create shadows on this side, then there would be a massive shadow on this wall of like all this weird metal caging mesh stuff. But we're not going to mess around with that kind of light, and we're just going to have a nice basic solid light that illuminates the room. So yeah, there's a hopefully simple enough explanation of how to do the lighting. But once again, obviously with this, you can obviously just go back, repeat this little tiny section and bosh, or you could just basically just ask me in the comments below if there's something that you didn't quite fully understand. and I will answer it for you. If it's something that I haven't covered and you're asking me a question, I will answer it for you if I can. Because I don't know everything about Creation Kit. I'll say that now. I don't know everything about this damn bloody thing. But right. So that is basically effectively what... Oh, and just a reminder, if you want to get rid of all these like markers, like the bulb there, the little blue man here, all you gotta do is make sure that this up here is not faded. So, you know, because if I click up here, as you can see, it is now faded. If I click on this, it is now not faded. So once it's not faded like that, just press the M button and it gets rid of all markers. You know, so just the M button for monkey. And then bosh. Alright. So I'm going to go off camera, screen, video, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to do all the finishing touches to this room, because the rest of it is just tedious details, adding in moss and just adding in all the tedious kind of stuff. Basically, so then you'll get to see this room in its final form, basically. But of course, again, as I previously mentioned, if you have any questions, just let me know in the comments below, and if I can give you an answer, I will give you an answer to your question. So, I'll be back in a second. Alright, and here we are with the finished. Well, primary finish. I mean, obviously there's still like a few minor details, like nav mesh, maybe adding 1 or 2 people into the room, blah 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 blah. Maybe adding a book in here that's going to be one of the new law books or something like that, or one of the new follower journals that will be added in. But in the ways of primordial, or the primordial, whichever word you want to really use. But in the ways of its basic room design, the Guard Barracks is done. I mean, yeah, I wanted to do like a little bit with it, but I didn't want to go like mentally crazy on it, just in the premise of, because, you know, it is the guard, you know, it's the room that you'll go into, obviously. You know, you'll go in there, you might have a little look around. That's why I might like add one or two little like small items for you to find or something like that in the room, but nothing too mental. But you know, I wanted to make it look nice, but not go like overboard with it, kind of thing. Because it's like, this will be a room where you'll primarily maybe like come into like a couple of times sort of thing, or you'll come in like once each time you visit the city, just to see if, you know, if a character's there, or just have a look around again, or something along those kind of lines. So since it's not a main key room, obviously the key rooms will be sort of like the shops, the player space, and, you know, the main kind of rooms you'll want to actually go into, where you actually interact with actual NPCs. You know, those are the rooms where more details will be added in. This one's got a little bit more detail than the entry hall, but I might go back to the entry hall and just like add in some of this stuff on the walls, just to make it, you know, it seems like things are kind of like, you know, again, a bit like moss or something, or seaweed or whatever, grown up, you know, sort of like grown up walls, like a vine would grown up a wall. But yeah, this is the generalised, basically finished Guard Barracks. Oops. There you go. Camera in there a little bit better. There you go. But just obviously helps set it off a little bit more. Done a little bit of just some stuff, you know, sort of like got some like kind of like mist particles here to sort of make it seem like it's a, like, I don't know, plankton or whatever, you know. Just something that's sort of like, it's like floating around the water, moving around the water. We've obviously got some of the fish. You know, you got the fish going around. Down the other, and obviously some kind of like swirly bits of mist to give that illusion of light refracting of water that you'll sometimes see when you put water in an enclosed space and then shine light. If you look at the ceiling, for example, you can see white ripples on the ceiling, and that's actually just the light reflecting off the water. But yeah, this is basically how the Guard Barracks would primarily look when the mod is finished. With obviously possibly some small minor alterations, but again it will just be, I might add like a book in here, 1 or 2 books in here, might end up putting one of the guard NPCs in here, sort of thing, la la la, this like that, but there you go, this is pretty much how it will look. Right, so with that said and done, that's the end of this video. So yeah, hopefully you might have learned something if you've watched this. If you watched it long enough, anyway, you may have possibly learned something. You may have learned absolutely nothing. But again, this is not meant to be a full-on tutorial series. This is just, yeah, I'll show you how to do certain things and how certain things work. But you know, in the ways of showing it in as tutorial form. This basically just goes over the basics, you know, we're not going into great detail on this, that, and the other. Alright, so we're probably going to have maybe 2 more videos of this, because the only other kind of things I really want to cover on when it comes to like creating dungeons and mods and stuff like that, or at least the kind of style mods I tend to do, which this is more the kind of style I would tend to do, which is sort of more a dungeon / player kind of space mixed in with some actual like kind of storytelling elements. But of course this is a collaboration one, so this is not just my story or my creation, it's also being co-created with Dragon Blade Palau. But yeah, but it's into a kind of style, so I'm covering sort of like more that kind of stuff that I'll do. So there's still going to be stuff like how, you know, creating an NPC, setting them up to be either, you know, a follower or a shopkeeper, how to make people marryable so you can actually marry them, though I think with the Sunken City it might be a little bit more harder, because I don't know if there's any Argonians you can marry in the game, because the Sunken City is going to be full of Argonian. So, you know, so that's who all the NPCs are going to be inside the Sunken City, are Argonian NPCs. So marriage wise, I may have to jump onto a different race just in case. I will need to look up about that. But yeah, so it's just how to make follower, how to make a shopkeeper, sorting out the factions for the shopkeepers, sorting out their infantry, you know, and all that kind of stuff. Making a follower, I think I've always said marryable already again anyway. Connecting doors to one place to another, though that's pretty simple, but it might as well show it, you know, it'd be like literally 1 minute showing how it's done. And of course, everyone's favourite thing, nav meshing. So, but nav meshing will be pretty much the last thing that will be shown. So there may be a bit of a gap between the second to last video and the last video, where in that last video is where we'll go over nav meshing, because I need to get everything inside this place before I do nav meshing, or at least pretty much everything. I don't need to get the actual people in there, but I need to get everything else built. So, you know, it might, you know, so there probably will be a gap at that point. Anyway, but that gap will be filled in with mod reviews and stuff like that, and anything else I think of doing. But anyway, enough rambling on. So if you like this video, leave a like, or subscribe to the channel to see what other videos I've done, whether it's like this kind of style of video, or whether it's just mod review videos or whatever kind of thing. You know, I got a little bit of a selection on the channel. I do have a Twitter and a Discord link in my channel banner, or in the About Me page on the channel. I could put a link in Discord, but I'm not entirely sure if the links I put in the Discord description actually work. I'm not 100% sure if they're actually working correctly, but I know the Discord link in my channel banner or in the About Me page on my channel, I'm pretty sure those links are working. So if you do want to join me on my Discord, those are probably the better links to go to, is in the channel banner or the About Me page on my actual channel itself. Which on there you can ask me questions about modding, just come generally ask me any other general questions, leave me suggestions for mod videos or whatever, just any other, blah blah. And just come generally chat, basically. But right, enough of that PA on all that self-promotion out of the way. It's going to be time for me to get out of here. So until next time, I'll see you all later.